What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to set some intentions this week? Because we got a busy sky for it. We got three planets that are going to be moving into different signs. Venus is entering into the signs of Pisces, and she is thrilled. This is a great place for Venus to be. Mars, on the other hand, is entering back into Cancer, and we are that's questionable for Mars, and we'll talk about that. And then Mercury is entering the Capricorn, making sense of all of this stuff here. And I think that this story that's painted out is starting with the feeling, strong feelings with that Venus and Pisces, and it's ending with a question mark with that Mercury, because we got some North Node action as far as like the direction in life, some Saturn action as far as like how we're going to work within the boundaries of this. A lot of stuff to work through, and we're going to get into that more here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and one of the things I do is talk about the celestial chit chat that's going on in the sky, the Celestial News Weekly, and I'll be going over the week of January 2nd through the 8th, and let's get into this thing. Because on Jupiter Day, the 2nd of January, at about 7:24 p.m., and that's Pacific time, Venus is going to be entering into Pisces. Now, the reason that this is so cool for Venus to be entering here is because this is where Venus finds her exaltation. And the exaltation means it's where she's most celebrated. You know, after the signs of, or where she finds like is very celebrated in. So it's like where after her signs of Libra and Taurus, this is like her home away from home, her favorite spot outside of the zodiac. You know, of her of her places. And one of the things that I find that can be really cool with this, because the nature of Venus is to magnetize, is to create harmony, is to create beauty. And Pisces being the mutable water sign, they're ruled by Big Papa traditionally. So there's this expansive quality, but it's an expansion of this inner world, because this Pisces is the mutable water sign, so they're able to flow and adapt to the emotions and the psychic messages, and there's a level of compassion and empathy that Pisces can really feel, and that they're really receptive to, being feminine in nature as well. And so you tie all of this up. One thing that I really think, just in general, as a just, for us all, that we can embody is a lot of compassion with Venus in Pisces. She's able to really put herself in other people's shoes and understand what they're feeling, and then be able to understand how to work with that. Where I may not 100% understand what you may be going through, I can be there to provide the shoulder, the hug. This is very reconciliatory type of energy. If there's been a bit of discord that's going on and you're wanting to smooth things over, this Venus and Pisces would be a great one for as well. I feel like just Venus makes just us more excuse me, more more open and more receptive to hearing others out, as opposed to just being reactive. And we're going to be in a lot of receptive energy here in a little bit. It's going to be a lot of earth and a lot of water that's going to be going on here. A little touch of fire in these transits, but eventually when Mars and them move back, a lot of shifts over these next couple weeks now that I'm thinking about this. So just paying attention to what comes in, and also what you are attracting. I think that this can be not just a great thing to bring just some beauty, but again, just to notice where maybe there has been some things we've been ignoring that's maybe been getting in the way of your path. Maybe there's been some unspoken things that you can find a diplomatic way of going about it, or at least a diplomatic way of expressing it, or something along those lines. And I would say with all of these planetary ingresses that are going to be happening, I would definitely say this is a great time to just kind of pull out your chart, just find out where you have Pisces, what area is this specifically covering, where can you find a bit more harmony and attract more just balance and peace in that portion of your chart as well. I think would be a very constructive way. But if you are like a musician, an artist, a dancer, crafter, this is wonderful energy to work with as well with Venus and Pisces. Go out there, get inspired, but even just every day for everyone, maybe doing a little more whistling in your day, listening to a bit more music, listening to some harmonious things, maybe starting off your day with just something light, something that gets you motivated, something that gets you kind of pumped up there, something like maybe even decorating your space. Maybe Venus is going through your fourth house, so this could be getting some artwork. Maybe you're adding a new rug, maybe you're getting some new clothes, something along those lines. If this is going through your first house, if it's an appearance thing, take yourself for a spa day, treat yourself, something along those lines. But yeah, I really think that this Venus in Pisces is going to bring a bit of a break, especially if Saturn in Pisces has been kind of working on you. Because, and let's talk about that next, because this next transit on a Saturn day, if appropriately enough, and that's going to be the 4th of January. At about 2:36 p.m., the Sun is going to be forming a sextile with Saturn. And this is going to be happening at 14 degrees and 50 minutes. The Sun is in Capricorn and Saturn is in Pisces. Now, the thing I like about this transit, because this is any kind of positive transits with Saturn, we love that. We welcome that with open arms. And what I think with this energy, because sextiles are when the planets are 60 degrees apart, and so it's Venusian in nature for me. It can bring about this sort of like excitement. Can create these sort of opportunities. And what I like about this is that Saturn in Pisces is getting that feeling, that winds of change, maybe with Venus in Pisces, and now is creating this opportunity, maybe even giving you some kind of downloads with that Sun in Capricorn on, hey, you want maybe more creativity or more time for your hobbies, more time for travel, more time for self-care, more time for home care. This is an opportunity for you to really go pay attention with what kind of internal messages are coming up, because it can help you make that stuff manifest. Because the nature of Saturn, where he can bring restrictions and limitations, Saturn also gives form. And when you work within the rules of Saturn, you can still do a lot, because it sometimes happens with Saturn. You do things through trial and error, but you get better at it. And the more that you keep doing it and keep doing it, keep showing up, you just keep improving. And I think that this sextile is creating excitement for that work, for whatever that next step, that next chapter of yours is looking like, or this next portion of your life is looking like. This can be just the inspiration to ground that, because the Sun, I do like the Sun in Capricorn, just because it does help us think about, and any time when we get into Capricorn, thinking about the long term of things, and calls you into thinking about like where I could be a bit more disciplined with these inspiration, with these ideas. Have there been something I've been saying a lot? Man, I wish I had more time for this. Man, I wish I had more time for that. Well, you can wish all day, but and get all these feelings, but now how are we acting on them with that Sun in Capricorn? And I think that once you kind of meditate on where you want to go, this next transit is going to help give that heat and move it forward, and kind of see where, like, oh, maybe I've been getting in my way, but I can, well, let me explain it first. Because later today, at about 10:20 p.m., Mars is going to form a trine with the North Node, and that's going to happen at 0 degrees and 26 minutes. Mars is retrograde in Leo, and the North Node is in Aries, and the South Node is in Libra. And so that's where there's this trine with the North Node, there's this sextile with the South Node. So more sextiles and trines, more opportunities, more, I feel like, again, more excitement for a shift in the energy. A shift for, okay, that Mars retrograde is reflecting on how you've been moving. How have I been channeling that Leo energy, that solar energy, because the Sun is, or the Leo's ruled by the Sun. How have I been working with these inspirations and putting them into action? Because the fire signs are about action. Aries and Leo, they are masculine in nature. This is about movement. But Aries is that initiatory cardinal energy, and Leo is the sustaining of that initial fire. So this to me, can again take the stuff that you felt from Venus, really get it into a game plan and just take it off, and again, it can be as big or as small as you want this thing to be. This could be a time where you start to write your first chapter of your book. This could be where you create your first website, your first YouTube video, your first podcast. This could be where you buy your first house, like whatever this is, or just even start doing those types of things. So the thing that I like talking about too when we're talking about the North and the South Node is, the North Node is where you're going, where you're uncharted territory. The South Node is where you've been. And, this is an opportunity with that sextile. This is like, okay, I can either continue to stay in this and just make the best of my situation, or I can aim for more with that North Node. And sometimes I find with the South Node that you need that past energy as motivation for the future, to know where you need to shift things, So that Mars, and then the thing is, after this, the next time that they have a conversation, Mars and the North Node, is when the North and the South Node are going to be in Pisces and in Virgo. And it's going to be a totally different feel. And, it's going to be in this water energy. And that North and South Node are going to be in there for the next 18 months. And the whole house focus and everything, just the focuses shift. So this is a time to, I don't want to say it's a great time to get any sort of things that you feel like you've been putting off for a while, putting off. Now's the time. Do this thing now and get it in motion so that you can keep that feeling and keep that feelings compounding once we get into all that water and earth energy as we move forward. Now let's get into this next one, because our second ingress is going to be happening on a moon day. I love that. And that's going to be on the 6th of January. Mars will be, I didn't put what time. So let me actually just pull out my photos real quick. So Mars is going to be entering back into Cancer at about, that'd be 2:44 a.m. And again, that's Pacific time. Now, the reason that this is tricky for Mars is that unlike Venus, who finds her exaltation in in Pisces, Mars finds his fall in Cancer. And one thing about the fall, or a thing about when a planet is in its fall, is that it has a tendency to just kind of fall into the lower expressions of the planet sometimes. It doesn't operate at its best all of the time. It needs a bit more effort to get things accomplished. But it doesn't mean that you can't, that the planet is useless, Mars in Cancer can be very protective, can be very intuitively guided, especially when you sync up with the moon. But that Mars in Cancer can be very, I feel even very inspired as well if utilized intentionally in understanding the flow of the moon, that waxing and waning portion. Whenever we're working with with Cancer energy, it's tricky because you're working with the moon and the moon moves so fast. And so this is where, while Mars is in Cancer, I find that working with the moon sign, as far as what are some actions that you wanted to be taking, can help you keep the energies motivated so that you can work with the fluctuations. Because Cancer does fluctuate quite a bit. And again, that's just because the moon fluctuates so much. She's waxing and waning in different signs every couple of days. So again, you want to look to see where you have Cancer in your chart and where, because this isn't Mars Mars was only stayed in Leo for a little bit and is going to go back to about, I think, 17 degrees of Cancer. Yeah, it's going to go back to 17 degrees of Cancer before it goes back. So it's really got an extended time in this water sign. And one thing with Mars and Cancer too is that Mars can be emotionally reactive. This is because Cancer, like I said, they're ruled by the moon. And they are the cardinal water sign. So they're the initiator. They're where the emotions first happen. And where that leads to some very strong intuition. If you're not in tune, that Mars can fight and do something that it regrets later, all because it was feeling something in the moment. And that is something that you just want to watch out for, where Mars can get in his own way and be mindful about getting up in your feelings. And when you are feeling a lot, finding healthy ways to move through that. So if you're feeling a lot of anger, frustration, maybe go for a walk, go for a run, go do some kickboxing, something along those lines. Or something too, if you're feeling maybe some depression or things, like some feelings, work with the sensorial types of things. I find that the moon is how we nurture this body. Some bitter things can be a great way of cutting through. Mars is very cutting, but eating some like dark chocolate or things if you're feeling a lot of maybe like sadness or depression. I remember I was going through something, right around, because Mars is going through my 12th house when he's transiting through Cancer. And I was feeling just a lot of feelings, and I bought some chocolate. I wanted to get something else, but I got this 100% dark chocolate, and my gosh, it was bitter. It was like I've had a moment. I was just like, this is really awful. And I like dark chocolate, but at that moment, that's not what I wanted. I wanted something kind of sweet, but after I got to do like the second bar, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to finish this right now. I was able to just kind of get with myself, and where I didn't necessarily, what I was feeling was still there, but it wasn't as heavy. It just like something about that just broke up that cycle. So that's something too. Finding constructive ways of working with Cancer energy, Mars and Cancer as well, can really just help you go from being reactive to being proactive. And I think that can be, they're just the most, Mars in its highest expression, that lunar warrior, knowing when to move and when to pause. That Cancer is like that crab is moving sideways. It's never quite going at things directly. It's kind of tiptoeing a little bit, kind of like, does this feel right? Now feels right, So pay attention to those fluctuations. Now, and I think too, last thing with that Mars and Cancer. What I could see this coming up as too is maybe overthinking things, letting the head and the heart get too caught up in one another, especially with all this water that we're talking about right now. I think that something that can be done is learning to trust with that, because Mars and Cancer can be very intuitively led. We're talking about that initial feeling. So this can be a great time to, all right, I tapped into that Venus energy. I got this thing moving, and this is how this is refueling me, doing this thing that Venus was initiating. This is how, and I really think that this could be something, if you have a night chart in particular, this is a lot going on, and I think that this is like a lot in a positive type of way, because Mars works well in a night chart compared to a day chart. And so I think that this can just be one where you're just feeling really intuitively led. This is giving me like kind of high priestess energy in a sense, just like knowing what to do, chariot type of energy, going forward and having a clear intuitive guidance, but you have to learn to trust that and be receptive to the gifts and kind of go on a feeling as opposed to maybe something tangible. But I think you'll still be able to, I know it may sound maybe a bit mystical and things, but the nice thing is that I think it'll make sense, especially when on a Mercury day, which I love this, on the 8th of January, at about 2:30 a.m., Mercury is going to enter into Capricorn. And when Mercury, I feel like in Capricorn, Mercury is how, when you think about Mercury, I was kind of reflecting on this, I think in the last video, just thinking about how close, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and constantly just going back and forth. And when we're watching the chart, it's always fun to watch Mercury's dance, because Mercury can only go about 28 degrees away from either direction in the sun before it goes back and catches up with it. And so Mercury is how we take that, how we understand our soul in a sense. This is how we communicate and articulate and gain wisdom and understanding from these kind of otherly forces in a way. It makes them more practical, especially in Capricorn. And for me, Mercury in Capricorn it's like an architect. This is the construction, whoever the head of the construction workers, and what are they called? The names are escaping me at the moment. But the guy who the lead, who's mapping out, who's like, okay, who has the vision? That's Mercury in Capricorn. This is taking something out of supposedly nothing and really giving it form when we're talking, especially in Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, like I was saying. And this is something that's going to take some time. When we're talking with Capricorn does require a level of patience, but I think that this can be where it's just figuring out how to enjoy the process of maybe exploring some new inspirations or ideas that may come up for you during this period of time, because this is a very active chart, or I feel like active week that's going on. And I think that this is one where you really kind of have to sit down and have yourself those kind of big, like sort of like write down, like kind of map out what is it that I'm doing? I need to get a number of things in order. There's a lot of parts of my chart that are getting lit up. Let's figure this stuff out. And so that would lead us nicely into this last transit, because at 9:14 a.m. same day, Mercury's going to form a square with the North Node. And this is going to happen at 0 degrees and 24 minutes, North Node in Aries and Mercury in Capricorn. Now, the interesting thing I find with this square, especially between Aries and Capricorn, is they're both cardinal signs. They're initiators, but Aries is now, whereas Capricorn is in a little bit. And I think that but both are going to get things done. And I think that there's the square, it is Martian in nature. So it can bring about this sense of tension. And since Mars is in Cancer, retrograding back in there, might be a lot of feelings coming on. So if you notice that, if you find yourself making a emotionally reactive response, pull back for a second, and okay, let's analyze. If I do this right now, is that really going to be constructive? Because that North Node is under the rulership of Mars. This direction is going to be controlled by how I am in control. I can't control anything around me, but I can control everything in me. And I think that square is just taking everything we just spoke about and just like, how do I make sense of that? Because, we got Capricorn that's activated, Aries, Cancer, Pisces. We had Leo for a little bit. So we got five portions of the chart that's activated, 5 different themes. And it's just like, what do I see or want to see come to manifestation? How will I feel in control and feel in that sense of power, and feel. And when I say power, just like empowered, and just feeling, right on point. You know what I mean? So a lot of questions, I think, to ask yourself, and just pay attention to what comes up for you. Do some journaling, maybe create like a voice memo. These are just some general things that I like to kind of pitch when you're doing these sort of brainstorming activities. Maybe talk about this with someone that you trust, who's going to give you some constructive critiques and things to make this thing happen for you. So, and maybe I'm one of those people. And if you wanted to work with those, or work with these transits more particularly, or kind of make heads and tails of this stuff, down in the description box below, I have a link for the services that I provide. So definitely check that out. And you know what? Sometimes it's just best to just pick one. Maybe you just want to focus on the Saturnian part of it right now, or maybe you want to focus on the Venus part of it right now. So pick what makes sense for you in the moment. Maybe there haven't been a lot of mental things going on. So, okay, I can focus on the martial things. What's Mars doing? Mars has been in this place before. So, but yeah, if that's something that resonates with you, all that's down in the description box below. And speaking of Mars and Cancer, if you're wanting to work more with the moon and find out what lunar shenanigans are going on, also in the description box is a link for my other channel, the Chariot and Friends, where I do videos that release them every couple of days, talking about the different signs that the moon travels through, the phases that she's in, when she happens to go void of course, and how to work with those energies. So all that's available for you. But until next time, stay mindful out there and keep raising that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one, Mercury Day.